Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to start the job club in just a few minutes. We're going to give everybody some time to get signed in. Just a reminder to keep your mics muted. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat and we'll get to them. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll also do questions as well. And then if you can see the screen, we have our December calendar for next month's job clubs and a few other Q&A programs that we have, such as student loan debt and services for seniors. And then I'll put the link in the chat to see that calendar in just a moment. Okay, so there's the link to the calendar for our events. And then today's presenter is Allison Harding from Jewish Family Service. I'm going to put the link to their website in the chat as well. And then again, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat. We're going to keep track of them and answer them at the end of the presentation. Alrighty, guys, and we're going to start in just a few minutes. We're just going to give everyone a moment to log in. Okay, and then we're just going to hear from Martine from Adult Learning for just a minute. They're going to present about some of our resources.
Hello. It's so nice to see everybody today and welcome. Hi, my name's Martine and I work with Adult Learning. We're part of the Dallas Public Library and we work really closely with the other people in the job club. So I want to share my screen with you and show you some of the things that we do on my team. And I'm also going to put the link in the chat so that way you can look this up later on your own time. So this, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So this is the Dallas Public Library homepage, and our tab, Adult Learning, is up here on the top. And once you click on this page, you'll want to click on online learning. These other tabs are a little outdated from before COVID. Everything that we're doing is online right now. So these are the programs that we offer here in adult learning. We have English language learning classes 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And there's a variety of different classes, different class types and proficiency levels. So if you have any friends or family members who are being held back in their employment by English being not their native language, we can help with that. Our classes are specifically geared towards adults, and several of them are exclusively for career-minded topics. The English conversation class, that is for people learning English who want to get proficient. That's less focused on grammar and vocabulary and more on pronunciation and flow. If you know, or if you yourself are working on your citizenship, we help with citizenship classes. And these would help you get your citizenship. And then this is relevant. We have GED classes in English and in Spanish, as well as a scholarship to get your GED. So if you are trying to get your GED, you can come to class for instructor in-person led classes. It's completely free, and you would just click on register. It's done through Zoom. And then we also have Online GED Academy, which is self-paced. And you could use that to brush up on any of the 4 topics that are on the GED. And those 4 topics are reading language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. So let's just say that you are not confident in your math skills, and that's something that's keeping you back maybe on your job. GED Academy is something that you could use ideally if you're wanting to get your GED, but it's just good knowledge and good coursework for you in those 4 subjects. The classes are completely free. The group size is between 6 to 15 people, and we try really hard to customize and cater it so it's relevant to the people who are in class. And the last day of the semester is December 19th. So we have a open arms, open door policy. Start when you're ready, start anytime. If it's a dream that you've been having to get your GED or improve your English, then the adult learning team is here to help you get there. Do you have any questions for me? Do you have anybody, does anybody in there have a friend or family member, or maybe themselves, who you think might be interested in one of our programs?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I will make sure to send all of this information in our email after the program is over today. Thank you so much, Martine.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, we're going to hand over the mic to Allison.
Hi, everybody. My name's Allison Harding, and I'm Senior Director of Career and Financial Services at Jewish Family Service. And we have a really robust program for those job seekers and those people wondering how to manage their money. And it's a holistic program. It's hand in hand. So my first question to all of you, and please write it in the chat box. And remember that if you have this question, so does everybody else. What's the biggest challenge you are having with your resume? What could it be? Just real quick, right off the bat. Anybody? Are people reading your resume? Are you getting interviews? Are you having problems with that? Are you not able to put down all the information? What's your biggest challenge?
A lot of people, when they ask for help at the library, have problems with the idea that you need to have more than one resume, the length of resumes, and also putting more than just what you did at the job, like more than just your duties, sort of expanding. See the length of time between jobs.
That is a really, really good concern. And my best answer to that, even before I get into the presentation, is you're going to have, especially in the last 5 years, 10 years, periods between your jobs. And as you did that, if they're short periods, a few months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, what did you do to improve yourself over that time? And you can include that in your resume somewhere, and we're going to talk about that. What did you do to make yourself more skilled to be able to get those jobs that you're applying for? Those are the things that are so important. Any other questions? I saw one, I think, about being terminated, fired. So the word terminated, fired can be synonymous with a lot of other words. So most companies will not give a negative review on someone because it's very important that you are able to find another position. And they don't want to be sued. I mean, that's the real truth. They don't want a lawsuit. So if they say something not good about you, you can sue them. You can argue with them. And so the important thing is that you can reword that. You can sort of spin that. So I'm going to give you an example. You were in an accounting department. There were 8 people in the accounting department. You got fired for whatever reason. When that happened, they have to reorganize, right? So instead of saying you were fired, you can say there was a reorganization. If they ask for more detail, then what you'll do is talk to one of us, your coaches at JFS, and we'll help you design a story about what happened so that you don't look like a really bad guy. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope, since I can't see you, I hope I'm getting lots of nods. So that reorganization is really important to be able to say that versus, oh, I got fired. Okay. So you ask a couple good questions. I'm going to start the presentation. If you have other questions, please put them into the chat box, and either Daisy or myself will try and read them and be able to answer your questions. The most important thing you're going to have for your job search are 4 things. Number 1, a desire to get a job, most important thing. Number 2, not a good resume, not an okay resume, an essential great resume. Number 3, the ability to network, know people, get to meet people. And right now you can't go to any organizations, but you can do it through LinkedIn and networking groups that are online. And 4, know what you can do. If you can know what you can do and have a great interview, I'm going to want to hire you, because the desire is for me as the hiring manager to see you sitting next to me, right next to me. And if I can visualize that in the interview, I'm going to want to hire you. If I can't see that after the resume, I'm not going to hire you. But the resume is going to get you in the door. Most important thing. So why do recruiters need a resume? Daisy, did you share the screen with me yet?
Which screen?
So that I can put up my slides?
Oh, you can share. Yeah, you're ready to
Okay.
go.
Here we go. All right. So why do we need an essential resume? What's going on with all this? Why are people basing so much on that resume? The real question is, why do they want really good resumes? So last week, I read an article that there are a minimum of 300, hear that number, 300 applications or resumes sent per job out there. That doesn't mean every job gets 300. It means some jobs will get 10, 15, 20. Some jobs will get 1,000. I was a recruiter for 18 years. I worked with Southwest Airlines. When they put a job up, they would get thousands and thousands of resumes. So you have to make sure that your resume is going to stand out. The answer why you need an essentially good resume, hiring managers, recruiters, HR people are looking for that perfect match between what the job description is, what the company wants, and what's on your resume. If they can make that match, you're going to get the interview. If they can't make that match, you're not going to get the interview. They're looking for that perfect 2-page, hear the number, 2-page resume, that novel about you. You want to be able to keep their attention. You want to be able to answer their questions. You don't want them to be bored when they're reading your resume, because when I read resumes, I could read a couple hundred in a day. And you want to make sure that your qualifications match what they want. And you want to make it interesting and fascinating information, because you know how long people read a resume in the first go around? 7 seconds. If I can't find what I'm looking for in 7 seconds, I'm going on to the next resume. So that essential resume is incredibly important. Your resume should be written by industry, not by every single need. And a few months ago, Phil Knickey talked about the matrix and how to write an industry resume. He's going to do it again next month. So if you missed that, please come back next month so you can hear about that. Your resume needs to provide a summary of your experience, your skills, your abilities, your assets, as well as all your accomplishments. The resume is your tool to sell yourself. That's what a resume is. It is a sales tool to get the interview. If your resume is done correctly, you'll get the interview. But if it's not, you won't. But you have to remember, and this is a difficult lesson, if you're having trouble getting the interviews, then there may be something wrong with the resume that needs to be changed. Something might need to be improved. I got laid off 14 years ago. I'd been with the company 18 years, and our whole department got laid off. I was a recruiter. I mean, I was a centaur, so I thought, so when I wrote my resume, I wrote things about me that I thought were important. When I showed it to one of my recruiting friends, he said, no. You don't need this, you don't need this, and you don't need this. And I'm like, yes, I do. He said, no, you don't. It's not going to sell you for the job you're applying for. I hadn't been getting any hits, took that off, repositioned certain information, and lo and behold, I got those hits.
Allison.
And that's when I came to work at Jewish Family Service.
Allison,
So
could you share your screen? We can't see the presentation.
You can't see it?
No, just click the share, the green button at the bottom of the Zoom screen.
I thought I had. Hold on a second. I might lose you here.
Yeah, there should be a little green arrow that says share on your screen for the
Right.
Zoom.
I thought I'd done that. I guess I did not. Okay, hold on.
So sorry.
That's okay. Is it up there now?
Yes, it is.
Yay!
Alrighty.
Thank you for letting me know.
No problem.
So changing your resume because it's not getting enough hits is very important. You might ask, how many hits should I get a week? How many people should be trying to reach out to me and touch me on these resumes? You should get between 3 and 5 as a minimum hits per week on a good resume, on a great resume. So that means you're going to get touched by either email, text, phone call, or LinkedIn, any of those ways. An excellent resume is important for you to get those hits. Hiring people are looking for those matching skills. An important asset of what makes you valuable are your transferable skills, but you're not going to have every exact skill necessary. Those transferable skills are very important. They have to match what the hiring manager or the ATS, which is the automated system, wants. But it's up to you to explain it correctly because they're not going to look for it. Remember, 7 seconds? For example, I'm going to give you a job title as an example. If you're looking for a position in human resources and you've been working in a company that calls HR the people department, and your title is manager, people department, then a recruiter or an ATS will not pick that up. They're just not going to see it. You may be a perfect fit for the job, but your resume will be ignored because there's no recognition of your current title. You actually need to change your title to human resources. So you have to remember human resources manager. And you have to remember what's important is that the people department might be what it's called at that company, but it's not a nationwide recognition. So if you don't like that because you say, well, I didn't lie, my title was an HR manager, or a people manager, what you can do is put HR manager / people department manager. That way, they'll be able to, the researchers looking for the resumes and the ATS will be able to recognize it. So another example, perhaps you've been a teacher and you want to change jobs, okay? You want to get into the corporate world. And you're saying, well, I just don't have the skills. I've been a teacher. Wrong. Here's what your skills are that line up with corporate jobs. You can listen well and change direction quickly. You multitask. You can handle difficult situations calmly. You can work well with everyone, from students to parents to administrators. You're a great teacher and a trainer, and you're used to planning everything. I mean, you plan all the time. So that resume is what makes it so important for you to be able, those transferable skills are so important for you. I'm going to give you an example of some of these transferable skills. 1, you listen well as a teacher. But in sales, if you wanted that type of a position, you need to identify customer needs. Well, if you listen well, you can identify those needs. 2, if you can resolve difficult situations, then you can demonstrate options and needs. You hear what the challenges are and you solve their problems with whatever it is that you're selling. Works well with everyone. As a teacher, you have to work with everyone. And in sales, you have to build relationships. Those building of relationships is what's going to sell your item. And finally, you plan and implement when you're a teacher, and you follow up to ensure the needs are met. You're going to give a proposal, you're going to sell your item, and then afterwards, you're going to make sure that everything that you sold was correct for the person to whom you sold it. So even though they're not identical skills, they're transferable, and we can help you spin your story to use the terms that that company is looking for. And it's spinning that story that is so important. So how are you going to make an interesting resume that matches the job description, meets all the needs, and is unique to beat out the 300 other people with whom you're competing, especially in 2020 in the future? Well, first, you're going to have to look at between 10 and 15 jobs. So this is when somebody asks, you always have to change the resume? No. You look at 10 to 15 of the similar jobs and find the terms and phrases that are most often used for those jobs. And those are the words you're going to put into your resume. Those job descriptions are the keys to the castle. Those that ability to be able to write your resume to make it something I want to read is the key. The words that the ATS and hiring manager will be looking for when they hire are the words you want spilled throughout your resume. And because many similar job descriptions use similar words and phrases, you want to make sure that it's all throughout your resume. So I'm going to give you an example of some things you need to do. If you're looking for an HR assistant position, as an example, words or phrases like organized, meets deadlines, and Microsoft Office might be part of that job description from the company. So you may want to include samples of words like streamlining new processes, takes action quickly, working well in a hectic environment with little direction, and using various software to accomplish tasks, including Microsoft Office. So what you're doing is taking what they want and building it into your teaching and your everyday service. Secondly, know your transferable skills. And some of those may sound like excellent communicator, critical thinker, self-manager, or great interpersonal skills. Know who you are and be able to put that on paper so the reader will want and need to meet you and get to know you better. Third, be sure your resume is readable. Yes, it can be 2 pages. When there's job fairs, they want a 1-page overview of you, but very few people can put your life's history of employment on 1 page. So 2 pages are fine. Fourth, use a font that is customarily used, Calibri, Arial, or Times New Roman. And that font size should be between 9 and 12. Having a readable resume is really important. And since we're speaking about resumes, let's talk a little bit about the headings, what goes on the top of your resume. It should be your name, your city, if you want. If you don't, leave it off. Your phone number, your email address, and if you have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile, put your LinkedIn address on there, okay? Do not put your home address on a resume. That's for safety purposes. You don't want people in the outside community to know that either you're home alone because you're not working, or that you're out doing a job search and your home is empty. So you never put your address, and don't identify phone, home phone, cell phone, email. I know what an email address is, and I don't really care whether it's a home phone or a cell phone. Just put them up there. That really shows that you're using an old-fashioned version of a resume when you identify something like that. Avoid using too much bolding, too much capitalization, too much italics, or too much underscoring. Too much of anything is just that, too much. So you don't want to do that. And make sure your job description under your jobs are all going to be bullet points. People do not like reading paragraphs anymore. They just don't. You're going to have 1 paragraph, and that's going to be your professional profile at the top. And I'm going to show you at the end of the presentation what a resume could look like. But other than that, everything else is going to be bullet points. And lastly, you can go back 10, maybe 15 years, but that's it. If you have something additional that you feel would be important to get that job, you can have a section that says additional professional experience and put a job and a couple bullet points there, but that's not where you want the emphasis to be. You want the emphasis to be current, today, now, okay? So you have to be able to put down those 10 to 15 years with your experience sprinkled throughout there. Now, let's talk a little bit about all that experience, and let's talk about the applicant tracking system, what I've been calling the ATS. You have to know the right words to use to get accepted by the ATS. And if the ATS accepts your resume, they then pass it on to a human body. And that's what you want to have happen. You want somebody human to end up reading your resume. And then hopefully passing it on to the hiring manager for an interview. So how do we accomplish this? The very first thing you have to do, the very first thing you need to know about in the ATS is no solid line from margin to margin. So a lot of people put their heading up there and then you put a solid line under the heading. Don't do that. The ATS thinks that under the solid line is at the solid line is the end of your resume, and it doesn't read your resume. Your resume goes nowhere. It can see your heading, it can't see anything else. So no solid lines. You know, if it's that short line under your email or under your LinkedIn address, that's fine. But anything from margin to margin, get rid of it. The applicant tracking system is really, really, really smart. So any words or phrases you write into your professional profile from the job description you research must be used at least 2 or 3 times throughout your resume. And that way the system can track whether you really did what you said you did, but don't overdo it. The ATS system can track that also. And if you put it in there too much, it's going to throw your resume out. It's not even going to send it on. So it's really important that you remember not to, oops, I went too far, not to go too far on using those terms and phrases. So here's a sample resume. Don't worry about trying to read it. I just want to show you the format for it. That first paragraph is your professional profile. That's going to tell me and use the words about you that are also in the job description and how I'm going to look at you when I'm trying to read your resume. Underneath that, we have skills, things that are going to draw me in even more. And that's what you want to have done. And underneath that, this is what we call a plus minus section, accomplishments. If you can have a metric in there, a number, you know, 98% of my students passed all their efficiency exams. By my being able to communicate, plan well, you're using the words from the job description, whatever that is. So those accomplishments have to have a number that can be associated with them. If you don't have any numbers, leave that section out, okay? Don't stress about it. But the first 2 sections, the professional profile and the skills, that's what we want to focus on. Underneath that, you're going to have your job descriptions. 1, 2 jobs, depending on how far back you have to go. Underneath that, your education. I don't want any years that you graduated. I just want to know that you did or didn't. And if you didn't, you can leave that section out, no problem. Then I love community involvement. If you were a Cub Scout leader, if you were in the PTA and you were the secretary of the PTA, I love seeing that stuff because that builds a relationship. Oh my gosh, I was PTA president. Oh, so was I. You see this? So those relationships oftentimes come through community involvement. And finally, your software skills. Some people say, well, everybody has software skills. No, they don't. And some have more than others. If you touched it, saw it, passed it, or smelled it, put it on here. You're not telling them how good you are. You're just telling them that you are able to work that system. So just as a review, do send resumes to recruiters. Always, always, always. Some recruiters are really good, some aren't. But don't pass on a possibility that could be a great recruiter. They can help you get a job. And if it's not the job you wanted, it could be another one. Who knows? Do not use Word headers or footers. So we're under Word, Microsoft Office Word, it'll say headers and footers. Don't use them. because the ATS can't read that oftentimes. So you want to leave that off. Do your own header, do your own portion of your resume with your name and the other essential information. Spin words that can get you the job, but do not lie. Do not ever, ever lie. You will get caught. And that is grounds for termination. And use a professional email address. So if your email address is letsparty@gmail.com, don't use it. Create a resume for your job search. Allison.harding@gmail.com. Okay, whatever you need for it to be. Don't use your birth date in that email. So if you do that, they say, oh, 1959. I know when they were born. It's not too hard to figure that out. If you already have one with that birth date, leave it. It's not going to kill the deal. But if you're creating a new one, don't put your birth date in it. And be sure to match most of the requirements when applying. When looking at a job description, you should be able to match about 75% of the job. So let's say a job has 8 bullet points. The first half of those are the must-haves and the bottoms are I wants. You have to be able to match the must-haves. Okay? So if you need help on this, we have 6 people on our team, 2 financial coaches and 4 career coaches. I was a recruiter. We've got someone who was in the military and a teacher. We've got someone who's worked with, and I think he's on the call. We have Jason who's worked at Texas Workforce and has been a recruiter like myself. And we have someone who has worked at JFS for over 20 years and has studied all sorts of different resumes and hiring procedures to make sure that we give you the best that you can get for getting a resume, interviewing skills, job search. We also now have 4 computers to loan you if you don't have a computer that's really good to be able to use for an interview. So we have 4 lending computers. You can have them for 2, 3, 4 days. And we also are setting up a room so that if you don't have a good place at home or a good computer, we're going to set up a room so that you can do your interviews at JFS. This is our way of being able to say to you, hey, we really want to support you in your job search. So if you're a client of ours, you can borrow those computers anytime. They're brand new, by the way, and they're also downloaded with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So if you need to make a new resume, you can't save it on there, and you have to save it to a fob. And if you don't have one, we'll give you one. We are going to support you the whole way. On this last sheet, 972-437-9950 is our phone number. The extension you're going to want is 340, and that 340 takes you directly to our intake team, who will ask you a bunch of questions. And then they send all that information to us. You'll get a phone call. You'll get 2 coaches. You'll get a financial coach and an employment coach. Why? Because we're holistic. We want to know how much money you need to make to get the job of your dreams. And sometimes it's more than what you've been making. So then we figure out, how are we going to help you do that? So that's why it's a holistic program looking to be able to help you advance and be financially sustainable. Have money today to spend, money in an emergency account, and money for your retirement. Yes, even if you're in your 20s or 30s, we're looking at your retirement. It's never too soon. Are there any questions? I know I did a lot of talking.
We do have quite a few questions here in the chat. Let me go through them.
Okay.
Alrighty, so Brenda's asking if it's best to have a Word document or a PDF.
Never do a PDF. There are too many companies that will not let that come into their systems, and they'll block it. So always use Word. So the old the old style used to say, well, somebody's going to change my resume. You know, if they're going to change it, they're going to change it for the better, number one. And number two, with so few people in departments, nobody wants to change your resume. Nobody wants to play with it. They just don't. So good question.
All right. And then is it better to have a functional resume or one that looks good?
So this is a biased opinion. I'm going to be real honest with you. As a recruiter, I didn't like functional resumes because I felt you were trying to hide something. I would read them sometimes, but sometimes I wouldn't. So I really like a chronological resume, like the one like this one. And if there's some blanks in there, we will help you fill that in. So I'm going to give you an example of myself. I moved here from Southern California and took a couple years off to get my family acclimated and my children in school, and one of my kids was having some problems. And so, you know, you have to get all that taken care of. But I had a few years off. Well, when I had those few years off, I was very active in the PTA. I was very active in a couple other community organizations. I put that as part of my job description because those activities kept me busy and kept me in the community. And it worked because it related to what other people liked. And we were able to talk about it. And that built that relationship that you have when you're interviewing. So that's me. But if you feel better with a functional, we'll help you write a good one. I personally would rather see a chronological.
All righty. Thank you, Allison. We have another question from Robin. According to Indeed, several of the applications I've submitted have never even been seen by the employer. So they're having some trouble on Indeed.
So it could be that your resume is really low in the listing, and you don't have enough matching words. It doesn't say it correctly. So when it gets into the queue to the company or within the Indeed system, there's not enough matching skills where they want to see that resume. So as an example, I place ads for Jewish Family Service on Indeed, and they ask us questions. How many of these skills do you want to match? And if I say all of them, I know it's going to narrow my search a whole lot because nobody's going to match all of them. But if I put 10 things on there and I say, I want 5 to match, if you don't have 5, if you only have 4, I'm not going to resume because I said I don't want to see it. So it really depends on what the hiring people want to see, the recruiters or the HR people, and what they said, what number they put on there that they want to match.
That's good advice. I have another question from Robin about LinkedIn, about what title they should use if they're looking for a job, or they're looking for several different jobs in a variety of industries and not sure what title to list on their their LinkedIn profile.
Don't list any. Let your resume sell you. Or if the jobs are similar, for example, if you want to be a receptionist or customer service or admin assistant, you can put all of those on. But if they're all really different, you have to choose one title and put that on, or don't use a title at all.
Okay.
Jason is in on this. Are you still here, Jason? Okay, he might not be. He's really good at LinkedIn. We've got 2 people who are fabulous with LinkedIn. I mean, fabulous. So if you have a mediocre LinkedIn profile, they can really help you a lot.
I'm on the call still, Allison.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd speak. Jason is great. I mean, he helps me on LinkedIn. He's really great. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Jason Hopper. I'm a career coach at JFS and Allison's favorite employee. If for no other reason that I'm on this call today. here is Robin, right? Robin, you asked that question. Okay, Robin, I'm guessing that you were talking about are you talking about your headline, like what's right under your name?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So here's a formula that I like that will work for almost any type of position that you're going to be applying to. Okay, and it goes like this. By the way, you have to fill in the blanks. Okay, it's I help blank by blank solve blank. So I help whatever it is you do, or whoever it is that you're serving, like, right? I help blank solve blank by blank. Okay, so tell me, like, it'll be kind of short, but that should take care of you applying to multiple positions.
Yeah, I told you he was good. Robin, you have such good questions. Thank you.
Okay, and then this is from Hannah. Should trainings and education have years of graduation or no?
Only if they're pertinent to the job you're applying for and they're recent. If they're more than 5 or 10 years old, leave the years off.
Okay.
But if you've received a certification or a certification date, end date might be on there, you might say, if you're a CPA, certified through 2024. That way I know it's current.
Okay, so it kind of depends on the job.
Correct.
Qualifications. Okay.
Yes.
This is from Jason. How many times should we use keywords before it's too much?
So your keyword should be used between 2 and 4 times. Obviously, 3 is a perfect number. You're going to use it at the beginning in your professional profile, and then at least 2 times within your job history so that I can see when you actually use those things. When you get into 5 or 6 or 7, way too many. Way too many. That's going to get you thrown out. Your resume sells you. You have to remember that. The other thing I tell my clients to do, put yourself in the hiring manager's position. Look at your resume and say, would I want to hire this person? And sometimes you're going to look at it and say, ooh, no, I didn't write this right. Or yeah, I would want to hire this person. Perfect way to do it. You're the hiring manager. Would you want to hire you? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is painfully no.
It's all about perspective.
It really is. It really is.
Okay. And Kathy has a question about ATS. Do the ATS system read Word documents better than other file types?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
They're designed to read Word. Okay. So when something's designed to do something, can it read something else? Yes. But you don't know if that yes is always or sometimes. So just leave it in a Word document. And even when people send things to me, I ask them to do it in Word. Because if I need to change something for you, I can get in there, change it immediately, send it back to you. If you like it, great. If you don't, you can take it back to the way you had it. With recruiters, we're looking at critical things. We're looking for mistakes, little mistakes. When I was a recruiter, and again, I was a recruiter for 18 years, when I saw mistakes on a resume, it was gone. I don't care if you forgot a period. I don't care if you forgot to capitalize at the beginning of a sentence, something minor. I didn't like mistakes. And that was my hot button. So mistakes can get you not interviewed or your resume not passed on. On the other hand, some recruiters will say, this is a great candidate. There's 2 or 3 mistakes on this resume. They're going to call you up and say, I'm going to change these mistakes. You need to do it also. And from doing that, you can get passed on. It depends on who the recruiter is. But be sure give your resume to 2 or 3 people and say, look this over, please. I don't want to make any mistakes on this. And I want it to be readable. Do you understand who I am? Ask a sister, a brother, a neighbor, a friend, a spouse, your sister who's not talking to you anymore, anybody.
Yeah, sometimes we spend so much time looking at one document, it just kind of starts. Yeah. Or another thing I recommend too is don't look at it for like a couple days and then come back with fresh eyes and you'll catch things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like a crossword puzzle. If any of you do crossword puzzles, you'll work it, and it's like, this is so hard. And a couple hours later, you'll look at it and it's like, oh, I know what this is. It's because you walked away and you came back, just like Daisy said.
Just taking some breaks. Okay. And this is a question from Jill. If a person has spent 2 years in prison 10 years ago, how can that be included with the least negative impact?
So you're not going to obviously include it in your resume, but it may come up, or it should come up, when the offer is given to you. Okay. So what you can say, and this happened to me, and I'll tell you a story. If it was 10 years ago, depending on what the offense was, it may or may not still be on your background. I don't want to know. That's up to you to know. But if you're given an offer, you then say, I really want this job. I want you to know that I've been a perfect citizen for 10 years, but 10 years ago this happened, and it will come up in my background check. Am I still eligible for this position? Tell them up front, because they don't want to be surprised when the background check comes back and it's like, oh, they didn't tell me this, and everything oftentimes is based, you'll be given an offer contingent on a background and reference check. So that offer can always be rescinded. The other thing I want to remind you about interviewing, I don't know what your Facebook looks like or your LinkedIn, but it better be nice, clean, and healthy. Okay. We had at JFS, we had a guy get a position with a company in Chicago, an big advertising company. He's a graduate of SMU. And he got the job contingent on the background check. And one of the things they ask for is, can I see your Facebook page? A lot of companies will ask that now. And oftentimes they won't even ask it. They can get in a back door. They looked at his Facebook and called us back and said, we're rescinding the offer. And I'm like, why? And they said, go to his Facebook page. You'll see. And he had stuff on there that shouldn't have been on there. Okay. And so they felt that it was a bad choice. So I called him to tell him, broke his heart. And he said, you know what? None of that's true. I put it on there to be like my peers, to be like my friends, to be like my fraternity brothers. So I called the company back and I told them that. And what they said to me was, we want people who are going to make good choices. He didn't make good choices. So whether it's true or not is not as important as the fact that he made bad choices in wanting it to have to be up there. So be careful with any of your social media. Make sure that it's nice and clean and healthy. And if I want to go look in it, I'm not going to find stuff that's going to say, no, I don't want to work with that person. I know I got a little bit off track.
But it is true. We see nowadays in the news that people can get terminated because of what they post on their public profiles. So it is something to be aware of. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then about ATS, does it have to be the latest Word software?
No, they can read anything. They can read a beginning version. Yeah. They can read anything. So sometimes in the older versions, your resume is going to not look as beautiful as you had set it up. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm not looking for the setup as much as I'm looking for what you said. Okay. So the earlier versions of Word will not probably come up properly. I don't care. That's fine. I've worked with the ATS long enough that I know what's going to look good and what's not.
Okay. And then Deborah's asking, if you have an i3 processor, does this cause a problem for the ATS system?
I have no idea what an i3 processor is.
Uh-oh. Okay. We will look into that question.
Okay.
And then if you use Google Docs but save as a Word document, that should be fine.
That's fine. No problems. No problems at all. A lot of people do that because they do everything. How many people? Almost everybody uses Google Docs today. So that's not a problem at all.
And sometimes they'll even let you upload directly from your Google Drive.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
so a lot of times, so one of the things you have to remember is your application is a legal document. You have to have everything on there that is asked for. Your resume is not a legal document. You're giving them a sales tool, your sales tool that is selling you. So you want the information on there that is going to get you in front of somebody. You don't want to lie on it, but you don't. You can have omissions on it, and it's okay.
Okay. And then one last question, and this is from Martine and Robin. They both have the same question about what LinkedIn groups were.
Which ones work?
Or no, what? So about
Which ones?
LinkedIn groups.
LinkedIn groups are great. I'd get on as many of them as you can.
Oh, the communities that you can join on LinkedIn. Sometimes they'll have like, I'm one that's for like library and information science students.
Exactly. And some are for HR, some are for IT. There might be 6 different IT groups. Join them all. Networking, networking, networking. Get to know people. Some of those people will be working, some won't, some will be hiring managers. Get to know everybody within your world of employment. Jason, do you have anything to say about that?
You know, I do.
I'm shocked.
Guys, you want to go to work fast, talk to more people. And by the way, like, I'm connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn. I see people, it sends you notifications of people that you're connected to. Oh, Sally got hired at XYZ company. Okay, great. Well, if you know Sally or you're connected to her and you're networking with her and she knows that you're looking, she just got hired somewhere. She could be an advocate for you at that company now. Or even better, maybe she's the hiring manager and she thinks of you. So yeah, as far as the LinkedIn groups go, yes, get into as many as you can. And also make sure that, you're an active participant within the group. Don't just join the group and be a lurker. Make sure you participate in the conversation. And if there's not a conversation, it's like light, start one.
Be the leader. It's always important and beneficial to you if you can lead. Don't overrun, just be the leader. So groups are great. And also professional groups. There's a lot of admins have a professional group, accountants have professional groups, IT people have professional groups, customer service people have professional groups. Look up those professional groups and join them. And if there's a nominal cost, $10, $15, $20, they used to be more expensive. Those costs have come way, way down since COVID and some people are and are not working. So if it's a nominal cost and you feel it'll be beneficial to you, go to the group a couple of times, see how it's running, and then pay that nominal cost if you have to for a membership fee.
All righty, we have just about a minute left. I
Okay.
want to thank Allison and JFS for joining us today and sharing all of this really essential information. Everybody needs a resume, and sometimes these things aren't as obvious as they seem. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to send an email after the meeting with all of the information we talked about today. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us through our webpage. You can also email government@dallaslibrary.org. Or you can reply to the email I send you.
And remember, if you need more help with your resume, interviewing, any of those, please call JFS. We're here to help you. And everything's done remotely, so you don't have to come into the office. We do a lot of Zoom.
All righty. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.